Hello, everybody. I'm Sean Reynolds from Sportsnet, about to be joined by Ken Wiebe from from the Winnipeg Free Press. I got it. And this is the Kenny and Renny post-game show after, wow, that was a fun, exciting game. I got to be honest, I was watching that game starting out, and I was thinking to myself, a lot of the themes of what we talked about last show after the Winnipeg Jets played the Dallas Stars, where we saw the Dallas Stars team kind of put the pressure on and put the Jets under duress, the way that the Winnipeg Jets have been doing to other teams so far this year. A theme that we talked about in the last show is one that I thought it was good for the Winnipeg Jets to see a team like that, because I don't think they had, for many of the games they've played this year, been put under duress like that. And in the end, I think it was the difference, how they handled being put under duress like that was the difference between them winning and losing that game against the Dallas Stars. Those of you who didn't tune into the game, they lost that game. But I think that there were lessons to be learned in that. I think you're pretty happy if you're a Winnipeg Jets fan, because I think that the lessons that they learned in that game were on full display in this game. Let me explain. The first period against the New Jersey Devils, I'm watching this game and I'm thinking it sure looks a lot to me like the first period or a lot of the game against the Dallas Stars. I thought that for the most part, the New Jersey Devils were carrying play. They were the more aggressive team, although when they did break down, I think there's a conversation to be had here as well. When the New Jersey Devils had breakdowns, it resulted in great scoring opportunities the other way for the Winnipeg Jets. So it was if you take that first period, it's for the New Jersey Devils a little bit of a microcosm of what the Jets have done so far this year, where they're dominant, but they break down at certain points. And when they break down, it's high scoring opportunities the other way. My explanation, my belief, my theory of why the Winnipeg Jets have lost so many games this year, that they were the better team. More on that later in the show, because Connor Hellebuck added some fuel to that fire and a little bit of, let's say, a little bit of supporting evidence towards Rennie's thought process on that. But the Winnipeg Jets survive it this time around, right? They create the opportunities going the other way. It's a 0-0 period, but I think it's an important period. It's an important period because it sets up what happens later. And what it sets up is the idea that the Winnipeg Jets were able to, I think, better handle the pressure that they were feeling from that New Jersey suffocating, smothering, speedy style, where they were just giving the Jets a taste of their own medicine. And the Jets handled the medicine better this time in this game. After that, I thought this game was a little bit of a toss-up going both ways. I think the New Jersey Devils, for the most part, I thought seemed to be the higher pressure team. I'm wondering, and geez, there's an opportunity to have this conversation. We're going to have Scott Billick on the show soon enough here. So I can have a conversation with him, because the whole idea of what's a high danger opportunity and the heat maps that shows shots from in tight, I think Hellebuck loves shots in tight. So I don't necessarily think that, in tight shots, they look great on a heat map. I don't think it's easy to score on Connor Hellebuck in situations like that, especially if you don't have time. I digress. But I think that there's one major difference in this game, and it's the solution of a problem the Winnipeg Jets had for years upon years upon years under Paul Maurice. I'll throw it out. Let's see who gets it in the chat room here. But what was the big issue that Paul Maurice year after year talked about, what he needed his players to do that they just wouldn't do? And then Dave Lowry came in, and Dave Lowry tried to solve that problem. What did they need the Winnipeg Jets players, specifically their forwards, to do that they just could not get them to do? Well, I don't see it in the chat room yet. People are a little bit slow on the draw. Scott Westman here says push back. I mean, hey, give the Jets credit. They've had that pushback going on. Craig Zamzow says accountability. There's a lot of good, but here it is. Beer League got it. Great job. Beer League says get in the front of the net. And that was it. That was the thing that Paul Maurice could not get the Winnipeg Jets to do. And tonight, To me, it's the difference between these two teams. If you take a look at the New Jersey Devils, they're creating a lot of opportunity. They're getting the puck into the slot. They're getting it into the front of the net. But for the most part, it's that one player that gets it, and there's an ability by Connor Hellebuyck to focus on those. On the other side of the ice, outside of the gorgeous and definite candidate for Lamplighter on the night, the backhand pass by Mark Scheifele over to Kyle Connor to put in the back of the net. And outside of that, the sixth goal, the empty net goal, every single goal comes off of chaos in front of the net. This is, I mean, we should get in to talk about Alex Iafallo and the value that he brings. But yeah, he's putting points up, and yeah, he's doing good with that line, but he is always causing chaos in front of the net. Cole Perfetti's pass over to Nick Ehlers, that doesn't happen, that him being wide open like that, if the entire New Jersey Devils goaltender and defenseman are focusing on the chaos that's happening in front of the net. The Winnipeg Jets were the better team tonight by a long shot at getting to the front of the net, causing battles, causing chaos. And it, to me, is the clear reason why they end up being the clear winner in a close game that they break open. A great example of it. Now, I don't want to get too excited. I know the detractors out there are going to say Nico Hischier's not in the lineup. Jack Hughes isn't in the lineup on a night where the Jets won this game with an offensive explosion. You know, Jack Hughes was on his way to being, running away with the Art Ross trophy before he got injured. Those are two huge players to be missing out of the lineup. So let's not get too crazy here, but you play the team in front of you. And boy, I thought the Winnipeg Jets handled the situation in the first period that they may have faltered a little bit against the Dallas Stars, built on it in the second period, had the pushback everyone's talking about here. But listen, the hardest place to play as a forward is in the front of the opposition team's net. The Winnipeg Jets went there time and time again, whereas the New Jersey Devils didn't. And that's why your Winnipeg Jets are victorious on this night. That's my take on this whole thing. Time to bring in Ken and get his take on the whole thing. Here he comes, man with the best music in the business. Here comes Kenny. Kenny, I want you to promise me one thing, my friend. If you outlive me, and that's debatable whether or not that's going to happen, but if you outlive me, I want you to come see me in my deathbed one last time, and I want you to enter the room to that song, and that's the way I want to go. I want my heart rate to jump when that song comes on, and that's the way to go. I love that song. I never get sick of it, and I never get sick of you coming in here and sharing your takes. So let's get at it, Ken. What do you got to say about tonight's game?
Well, I appreciate the thought, but let's hope for a few more good years here.
We'll get a couple years out of it.
Yeah, I mean, solid effort overall by the Jets. I mean, penalty kill still needs work. That's evident. One's kind of bad luck. Bounce off the post, off the Dougie Hamilton shot. For the Mercer goal, but I mean the first one is a tough one. It's a redirect on a shot from Timo Meier, but I mean again, there's no pictures on the scorecard, as we like to say. So I mean the Jets don't want to be giving up two power play goals. I mean we know that discipline was something that Scott Arniel talked about this morning. Sean, he talked about not wanting to take any penalties. The Jets did take a couple of, I would say, of the undisciplined variety. Probably it's fair to say. Overall, you're right. The Jets did do a good job of winning battles. I mean, I think that the Nikolai Ehlers goal is a great example of that. And Nikolai Ehlers touched on it, Sean, when we were there in the scrum with him after the game just a few minutes ago. And what he was referring to was that play. It's a brilliant show of vision by Cole Perfetti finding the backdoor tap. But that play doesn't happen without Ehlers first winning the battle in the corner on his knees with the Devils defender winning the battle, getting the puck along the boards to Vladislav Nemesnikov, who then gets it to Dylan Sandberg, who then gets it to Cole Perfetti. And then a brilliant pass ensues. I mean, good job by Ehlers to get up from in the corner, find a soft spot of open ice on the back door. But that's a brilliant pass. I mean, everyone in the rink, including you and I, thought that Cole Perfetti was going to unload and shoot. Same with the Devils defender. And lo and behold, there is a perfect pass on the back door for a wide open cage for Nikolai Ehlers. So, hey, Nikolai Ehlers needed to get going. And sometimes it's not just the goal itself. It's what leads to the goal, Sean. The effort play that leads to the goal. It's the stepping up for your teammate, Vladislav Nemesnikov, and dropping the gloves outside of his weight class, as Josh Morrissey told us, half an hour ago as well. I mean, Nikolai Ehlers, when he goes, he usually goes against guys that are much bigger than him. He did so again. And we talk about, I don't know if accountability is the right word here, but I think you and I both, Sean, thought that Brendan Smith may have been a little bit out of line with that last punch when Ehlers was clearly expecting the linesman to come in. He was holding on. He was like, okay, looks like this is over. And then Smith bashes him one more time in the nose, it looked like. I thought that Ehlers wouldn't be thrilled about that, but he's like, hey, I think Ehlers was so tired from the wrestling that he didn't actually get it out of in his head. He was like, "Oh, this fight is over," but he didn't tell his opponent that the fight was over, and then he gets bopped one more time. But hey, big deal. He stepped up. He did his job. He got involved. And hey, sometimes you're the windshield, sometimes you're the bug, right? So
I'll go on the record and say, as a guy who's been in a number of fisticuffs before, I like his answer. I was not bothered by it. I was like, defend yourself. You don't get to get tired in a fight and drop your hands and not say I'm done. He said, I never said anything. I never did anything. The fight wasn't over. He just kind of let the fight go and got popped one. You gotta defend yourself till the end. So I like the fact that he didn't turn around and be like cheap shot and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
This is an example of a guy who as much as he has fought, maybe he should be knowing this, but this isn't a guy who should know or it shouldn't be commonplace for him to get into fights, to know all the rules. One of the rules kind of slipped for him. He got tired. He dropped his guard. He got popped. He owned it and didn't call out another guy for it. I thought that was the right thing to do. Just a perfect night in the media and on the ice for Nikolai Ehlers.
And so important, Sean, right? We talked about this on Saturday, on the late night edition, the after hours edition, where Nikolai Ehlers, we thought, had his best game of the year on Saturday. And I think it's important for him to follow it up with another big effort. And we know that Kyle Connor is on fire, and we'll get to that in a minute as he ties, Austin Matthews and maybe alerts folks that there are other goal scorers that are vying for the Rocket Richard Trophy here. But overall, I mean, Ehlers needed to get going, and him being able to stack good games together it's important, both for himself as an individual and, of course, for the team, because the team needs Nikolai Ehlers going. The Jets need that second line to be cohesive and to provide some important production. And we know that Cole Perfetti is providing production, 7-game point streak, 10 points in his last 10 games. That's excellent. Cole Perfetti, we knew, could contribute offense as long as he stayed healthy. He's been doing a great job of staying healthy. Haven't been any of those hits that we saw him be on the receiving end of. And it's not because he's not going to the hard areas. He's doing a better job of protecting himself. And he's playing excellent hockey. And he's really exuding a lot of confidence. And again, we tried to peel back the curtain a little bit when we can. So Sean, this morning after the avails were done, I saw Cole in the hallway and I said, Cole, just so that you know, the reason why I asked you about the shorthanded goal, it wasn't because I was trying to assess blame to him, but I wanted to know what he saw on the play. And he knew immediately what he was going to do the next time he was in that situation. But his ability to explain it in layman's terms, of course, when he said, could I have just banged it back, try to get it back to Morrissey? Of course, but on the power play, your first thought is not to rim the puck back to where it was coming from, but he knows that if he's pressured in that situation again, he'll do it. So I love the way that he's responded. I love the way that he's explained a bunch of things. We talked about this in training camp when he explained the benefits for him playing center. We've talked about it now when he's moving to the wing. His ability to process and, deliver and execute in those manners has been very impressive. Another important game for him. Sean, the Jets they gave up some, natural stat trick has them down for quite a few chances against. I
For sure.
personally didn't think it was a sloppy defensive effort.
No.
I mean, could they have been a little tighter? For sure. I didn't find this to be a super loose game, even though natural stat trick has them down for 14 high danger chances at even strength. To me, the Jets were pretty good defensively. And of course the Devils miss Heischer and Hughes. They're two excellent, they're the top two centers. You take the top two centers out of any lineup, it's going to have a disruptive effect and impact. But I mean, the Devils are still a good hockey team, and they played, they had some strong showings at times during that game. But the Jets' ability to push back and do the things that have made them successful is what I would say would be an encouraging sign for the Jets here, especially coming out of that Saturday game against the Dallas Stars, where the Stars made the Jets impatient. Today, New Jersey wasn't playing the same high-octane, wide-open, end-to-end style that we were maybe expecting. They were much, they were defensive also at some ways. They're trying to get better defensively as well. Guess what? They want to try to become a winning hockey team. So, of course, they're trying to be better defensively and, have been able to do that at various points. But the Jets did a very good job of disrupting things, as you mentioned, on the forecheck. They've become a very good forechecking team, even though they're not, they're not a bang and crash team, but they disrupt things in the offensive zone with their ability to apply pressure and to have the second guy get the puck. So I think there's a lot of important building blocks here for the Jets today. Not a lot of complaints personally in terms of how they played overall. Of course, things to clean up, there always are. And overall, I would say the Jets took an importance. Being able to play that type of game, I think you were getting at this in the opening, after kind of having your game taken away from you at times by the Dallas Stars was a massive, massive step forward for them.
There's some great comments coming in the chat room here right now. I'm going to bring this one up because Vic Ronis, who isn't always, has the sunniest outlook on the Winnipeg Jets, says, Vic Ronis says, once again, the Jets were outshot, outchanced, outhit, had lower times goal for, lost face-off percentage, gave up another 2 goals on the penalty kill. The Jets had no business winning that game. I disagree with 2 things in what he's saying here. He's got a lot right here, Ken. The Jets had no business winning that game. I don't agree with that. I've explained why coming into this. But the once again part, once again, the Jets were outshot, outchanced, outhit. Listen, if this was the Jets from yesteryear,
not accurate.
Yeah, you could say that. That's not accurate. This Winnipeg Jets team is the opposite of that this season. But one of the reasons, and so Ken, you missed it in the opening here. My big take on this is the ability I think the difference in this game, and I do think, I don't think it was like crazy. This is the other thing I should say here. Brady from Game Over Winnipeg says a lot of those Devils high danger chances were stuffing Helly's pads in the first. I was texting nonstop back and forth with Scott Billick about this. And Ken, you probably heard he and I talking about it at the morning skate this morning. But I like a heat map will tell you that the Jets gave up a whole bunch tonight. But my take on it is pucks that are in tight when those players don't have a lot of time with the puck. The big and boring style of Connor Hellebuyck's is a style that is meant to handle and neutralize and nullify those kind of scoring opportunities. So I don't necessarily think that they're the greatest scoring opportunities. I know that the stats are going to tell you exactly what you said, Ken, that it was a night where the Devils were the better team. And I do agree that the Devils carried a lot of the play. The difference for me, Ken, and I'll say it again, the audience has heard it, I'll say it again, the Jets created chaos in front of the Devils' net. I don't think the Devils created chaos in front of the Jets' net. The Devils were doing a good job of getting the puck out for shots on net, but a lot of them seemed like they were one and done. There wasn't a ton of the one goal that they did score when Hellebuyck ended up way out of the net, which is, maybe a conversation we have to have at some point, how that's happening more often this year. But the Winnipeg Jets, you take a look at it, every goal they score tonight, other than the Mark Scheifele pass across the ice to Kyle Connor for the one-timer, and other than the empty netter, there is chaos in front of the net that is keeping the Devils defenders and is it Josh Morrissey who said it, or was it Nikolai Ehlers who said it afterwards? But the idea, or I think it was Josh Morrissey, the idea of like the chaos in front of the net just creates more space on the outside. So if you think of that idea, the idea that Kyle Connor is able to score that first goal and cruise through the slot untouched and shoot and then pick up his rebound because everyone is tied up with a guy in front of the net. Nick Ehlers is able to get wide open and have that open net because everyone is concerned with what's happening in the front of the net. So Ken, for me, yes, high danger chances. Listen, if one day when the NHL turns to not having teams win on the scoreboard, but whoever won the fancy stats battle, and there's going to be certain people out there who can't wait for that to happen, Ken. Don't count me as one of them. But the fancy stats for me go out the window when one team does the right things they need to win and goes to the hard areas. The Jets did that tonight. They earned that win more than the New Jersey Devils did. So you can tell me all day long what the fancy stats said about that game. The idea of who worked harder for that win to me comes down to the Winnipeg Jets were able to sacrifice more, willing to sacrifice more, and worked harder. And that to me is why they come out on top. And it wasn't close by the end.
Yeah, I mean, 17 of the 34 shots the Devils had were in the third. So, I mean, yeah, they made a push. Surprise, surprise. That happens. So good for them. But the Jets pushed back just fine. And I agree with your take about not a lot of second chances for the Devils. I mean, I think with 19 seconds left in the first period, there was a sequence where there were two, a rebound chance and another one. Yes, of course. I mean, the goal that Marino scored comes off of two rebounds. I mean, there's Luke Hughes and there's Curtis Lazar, and then there's Marino banging in the third shot. But outside of that, I mean, it was mostly one and done. And yeah, I mean, I just thought that the Jets were pretty sound in a lot of areas. I mean, I didn't find this to be a night where Connor Hellebuyck had to stand on his head to keep his team in the game by any stretch. I thought he was solid. Again, I think he was solid. I still expect, I mean, we know that Connor likes his details. He told everybody that again yesterday. And, that's important because Connor Hellebuyck has to feel good, and he's feeling good. And as he said, as long as he's given his team a chance to win and keeping his team in games, that's all that matters to him. I mean, we've said this before. I'm going to say it again. I expect Connor Hellebuyck's numbers to improve. Just his history would suggest that he's going to continue to get better as the year goes on. I mean, I don't expect him to be now he's probably around 900 after today's game. So he's trending in the right direction. It's his 12th start of the year. He's been busy. He likes to be in a rhythm. We're going to see Laurent Brossoit, I would expect, on Saturday, Sean. Or do you think that they'll do a flip-flop here? I don't think they'll flip-flop, Brossoit for Buffalo, but I do think that Brossoit probably plays the Saturday game against the Arizona Coyotes. That's, again, he's getting one of the games. That's all that really matters in this situation. The Jets are playing very good hockey on this homestand. Now comes the true test. Sometimes everyone says they'd love to be at home, but sometimes you get a little complacent as a road or as a homestand drags along. The list of things you need to get done and all of those other things sort of get to that point. I think the Jets have been very sharp to this point through the three games. But now they got to finish it. They have an opportunity to really start to try to make some of that separation. We know Minnesota got thumped by the Dallas Stars after the Stars beat the Jets. They're over in Stockholm, Sweden right now. That's going to be a stretch for them where we know it's going to be a grind physically. So the Jets have an opportunity, but St. Louis, I think, was playing well again today against Tampa. I didn't see the final, but it looked like they've sort of got a few things sorted out. And we saw already from Arizona, they're a team that can be tough. So Jets are going to need to try to finish this homestand off on on a positive note if they can. We should mention there was no real update on Rasmus Kupari other than the fact that Scott Arniel was quick to confirm that it was a right shoulder issue, and we know it was on the right side when he left the ice. I mean, it certainly didn't look good with how awkwardly he went into the boards. I don't see this. We'll find out more on Wednesday, but I don't expect it to be a day-to-day thing. based on what we saw and the way that he left the ice. So that's going to open up the door for David Gustafsson to be back. I would expect that there will be a Moose forward or call up from the Moose coming in. You saw Gabe Vilardi also skating on his own. He's getting closer to returning to skating with the team. I think that their Jets are expecting that to be next week, Sean, and that's another big development for them. But he's still probably, I'm going to guess, 2 weeks away. We'll see what happens, but I would still think that it's going to be.
They said he'll go on the trip, right?
Right, he'll start skating with the team then. But I don't.
With the team, so 2 weeks is probably the earliest that it could be. I would think.
Right. So anyway, we'll get into the 7D in a moment, but. I think that the Jets battled pretty hard, and some folks will just say, oh, well, what's the big deal playing with 10 forwards? Well, when you're playing in a high-paced game, playing with 10 forwards, it's not like, playing the Sunday night special in rec hockey with, 6 or 7 players, you have 1 or 2 spares. But, I mean, a 3-line game, it's fun, but it's also taxing on the body. So I thought that the Jets forward group handled that pretty well, and they're going to be what?
I thought it helped them, if anything. Here, we got to get moving on some stuff here. First off, I'm going to go down this direction. It's been called for, so let's make it happen. We got lots to do here. Let's make this a Sean's headband version of the Kenny and Renny show. I want everyone to know it's not lost on me, the idea of how ridiculous a guy wearing a suit looks in a headband. That's the thing about it, though, when you're dressed by the boys of Vittorio Rossi, you can't detract from how good something like this looks. The solid purple tie, the gray suit, you're looking good as well, Ken. You want to look like this and be looking so good that not even a headband can ruin your suit look. Head on down to Vittorio Rossi. Go see Frankie and the boys. Walk in and loudly proclaim that Kenny and Renny sent you. They will do you up just right and put you in such a good space that, like I said, throw a headband on. It'll work. Nothing does not work when you're wearing a suit from Frankie and the boys. Hey, let's do this quickly. I'm going to give the Pristine Roofing wake up. It's not even a wake up call. It's the wake up of the game, and that would be Nick Ehlers, who managed to take being the best Winnipeg Jets forward in his last game, and to this game just adds to it. Another phenomenal game for him. The way he's doing that, and we got to talk about the love that those guys have for Vladdy Nemesnikov. That there is no. I mean, there's certain guys on a team, Ken, on teams that aren't like the best, most cohesive teams. There's some guys that you can run into the boards that they'll be like, is it worth going to battle for that guy, right? I don't think the Jets are that team. I think they're one for all for one kind of thing, which is one of the reasons they're doing so well. But a guy like Vladdy Nemesnikov, regardless, you're not going to get away with running him because the team loves him absolutely so much. So Nick Ehlers, who's made it clear how much he likes playing with him, clearly shows up for him. Excellent job there. That's the wake-up call. He gave that player the wake-up call. His game is the wake-up call. Everything about Nick Ehlers right now is an absolute wake-up call. So let's give him the Pristine Roofing wake-up of the game, and you know what to do. That means if you need some work done on your house, your exteriors, your roof, all those kind of things. I know that there's a lot of water all over the place right now with this strange roofing. You know what to do. Give North End Rick a wake-up call. 1-204-981-6289. He's the guy you'll call down. He'll tell you everything you need done for your house, and then Pristine Roofing will come in and do all that work. Rick doesn't actually do any of the work. He just kind of sits back and sets it up for everyone else to do the work, but he'll come and he'll talk your ear off about hockey. He may give you a couple bad takes. He may insist that next year the Jets will go 2-8 out of the gate because he's going to be right one of these years, he figures. But hey, if you don't want to get a hold of North End Rick, you can just call them directly at 1-204-237-7663. And Ken, give Sweet Lou a shout out. But first, I'm going to go with the buyers and sellers theme that you were going with. Right now, I'm buying Cole Perfetti. We'll explain it after you give Sweet Lou a shout out. Who are you selling on?
Oh, I'm selling on a sub 900 save percentage for Connor Hellebuck because that won't be happening for very much longer. So Buy and Sell is brought to you by our good friend Lou Ferlin at Royal LePage Dynamic Realty. You can reach him at 204-791-9971 or at the office, 204-989-5000. If you're looking to buy, looking to sell, looking for a few thoughts on what that house on the corner is worth, Lou Ferlin's your guy in the real estate market. Lou Ferlin, excellent realtor, excellent human being, and excellent supporter of the community, including this podcast, for which we are very grateful.
It's easy for me to say that I'm buying on Cole Perfetti. That's easy. He's got 7 points in 7 straight games.
Mm-hmm.
I'm buying because I'm going beyond the idea of just that he's hot right now. It's not one of those things.
Oh, yeah.
I think that Cole Perfetti has unlocked the next level in his game at the NHL level. The way that he sees the ice, he is starting to be the guy that everything runs through, that kind of does the little things that frees defenders, move defenders out of a spot, misdirects things. Listen, I was watching the other day at practice where Josh Morrissey and Mark Scheifele were practicing and warming up together. And what they were doing is one was each on either side of the net, and they were passing the puck and grabbing it and turning towards the net and faking the shot, stick handling back and forth, and then doing a no-look pass to the other guy. What they're trying to do there is create that situation where every single person on the ice buys into the idea that the player is shooting, then a no-look pass, and boom, it's in the back of the net, right? You can see from Mark Scheifele's passing tonight that, yes, it's working. Cole Perfetti has that ability. There's only a certain amount of players in the NHL who have that ability that can buy time for their teammates by making everyone on the ice think that they're going to do something except for that other player. Cole Perfetti is unlocking that ability at the NHL level. We saw it from him in junior. We saw it from him with the Manitoba Moose. It's on full display now. So do I think he's going to get a point in every single game going forward, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff? I don't know. I think he's got the potential to be close to a point per game player by the time the year is over. I'm thinking 60 is very reachable for him this season. But beyond that, I just take a look at Cole Perfetti, and I think that what makes him a good player is his IQ and his ability to do things with the puck before he makes that move that entirely confuse everybody else on the ice. He's unlocked it at the NHL level, which should mean plenty of offense to come from him and the people around him. That's why I'm buying on Cole Perfetti.
Yeah, no doubt.
Talk about.
I'm also I'm buying on Cole Perfetti. Also, I'm also buying on I'm also going to buy on 50 goals for Kyle Connor. I know that we usually want to just stop at 1, but not going to buy 50 and 50. But I see Kyle Connor really getting into a groove here, tying Austin Matthews with 13 already this year, 13 goals in 15 games. Great start for him, and classic Scott Arniel, first rule of Fight Club, you don't talk about Fight Club.
Yeah.
When I asked him after the game about the hot streak.
A superstitious guy.
I loved it. It was pretty funny. So buying that. Also, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, just a little behind the scenes moment. When I was in Montreal, I went and asked him a question, and it was about the record that he'd had while Rick Bowness was out of the lineup. And I brought the record up and how good he'd done and he'd been doing. And he basically was like, and like plugging his ears. I didn't know that about him going into those meetings. You can have those conversations. The last thing that you can do, what I figured out with Scott Arniel, is if something is going well, throw out some stats to back it up, because he doesn't want to hear them. He does not want to jinx it. He's a bit of a superstitious guy, fun to deal with, but I just wanted to give that little peek behind the scenes of, it's fun to, like, the one thing I'll say about, like someone like that, a head coach, is like, oh, don't jinx it. Don't jinx it. He cares, right? Like, he cares to the degree that he's like going to do everything he possibly can to try and continue positive outcomes for his team. And if that means like not jinxing things, not sending bad vibes out into the world, he's all over that. I love that. I found it a redeeming quality about him, fun to work with. And it definitely shapes the way I ask him questions. I'm definitely not going to walk in and be like, hey, everything's great, and here's the numbers to back it up. What do you think about that? That will not happen anymore. Renny knows how to deal with it. He'll handle it with more tact going forward.
Yeah, there you go. And, shameless plug, but, I felt like it was a really good piece today about Scott Arniel getting his start with Lindy Ruff with the Buffalo Sabres as coaching. Oh,
I'm putting
there
it
we
up.
go.
I got it. You talk. I'll do it.
I can't multitask super well. Hey, yeah, I've known Scott Arniel for, more than 2 decades. He was the assistant coach with the Manitoba Moose my first year on the hockey beat, coming out of the University of Regina. The Jets were, or the Moose were still in the International Hockey League. It was the last year of the IHL. And Scott, a couple of years later, went on to join Lindy Ruff's staff with the Buffalo Sabres, spent 3 years there. Came back to the Moose to become their head coach, spent 4 years there, then took the job with the Columbus Blue Jackets. But for folks who aren't as familiar with Scott Arniel as maybe they could be or should be, he spent the last 11 years in the NHL as either an associate coach or an assistant, and he's doing a fantastic job with the Jets staff with Rick Bowness out. And Lindy Ruff's a guy who he played with in Buffalo. He played with for 1 year in the IHL with the San Diego Gulls. They've had a lot of talks over the years about the sport, and Scott was very, very complimentary to the role that Lindy Ruff had in his coaching career. And Scott returned the favor after Lindy was out. I believe in Dallas, he ended up being on the staff with Alain Vigneault when Lindy Ruff became an assistant coach with the New York Rangers. So those guys go way back. I like listening to the way both men talked about one another, and just another example of gratitude from Scott Arniel, who really enjoys is enjoying this run here, and loves being back in Winnipeg. For the folks who don't know, he married a Winnipeg girl, and he's made Winnipeg his home, and it's a great opportunity for him, and one that he's waited a long time for. After things didn't end the way that he had hoped with the Columbus Blue Jackets. So, anyways, that's where we're at with that.
I'm just going to give a quick apology for. I can see right now that my whatever is going on with my internet, it's not working.
What is
I'll have
going
to
on?
work on that tomorrow. I don't know. Like everything on my end looks good, but I see that I've got low bars. I see people commenting about it.
Just,
I'm not going to touch it. I am not touching it just because as long as the audio is there, that's what matters. So we'll get through that and move on. Just wanted to say rock solid is Kyle Connor's game right now. Jets have 24 goals in their last 5 games. He's absolutely on fire, like you said, leading the NHL on scoring. That is some bang up, rock solid performance by him. And hey, that reminds me of the rock solid value that we get, Ken, from being with Cambrian Credit Union, both you and I, with our mortgages through them. My kids have on-fee accounts with them. Father-in-law has been with them since the beginning. My wife, a lifelong member. They've been rock solid for us and rock solid in the community with all the sponsorships and donations that they are putting out there. Great work by them, and great to have them along the near Kenny and Renny OGs, which brings me to the Kenny and Renny OGs in the Johnson Group. What's got you covered play of the game tonight?
Yeah, I mean it was Nikolai Ehlers jumping in for Vladislav Nemesnikov in that tilt with Brendan Smith. Great game by him overall, but his willingness to drop the mitts and then joke about it afterward, saying his mom and sister were in town, and he told them that he didn't want to really get involved in any fisticuffs because he didn't want to risk any injuries. And then sure enough, I think he said 3 hours later he was out there dropping the mitts after his line mate got run. And again, it was a feisty game overall. And Nemesnikov also got rocked by Kevin Ball after setting up Morgan Barron for that beautiful goal. He had hit him in the corner, and then Ball came after him and drilled him after the goal was scored. But anyways, Nikolai Ehlers coming to the aid of a teammate. We've seen it done by many Jets so far this year, and this was another great example. Scott Arniel went to the well. The Rick Bowness special, the family line, you go after one of them, you go after all of them. And, Nikolai Ehlers was the latest to step in when it came to that. And as Scott Arniel pointed out, and Josh Morrissey too. I mean, that's something that there's a great appreciation shown, that willingness to, stand up for a teammate. And it's something that all the teammates of Nikolai Ehlers certainly noticed as well. Oh, can't hear you now. And now you have no volume suddenly. I think you're muted. Muted. Looks like you're muted.
There we go. Got me?
Okay, buddy. Yes.
That's a year one at Kenny and Renny. Here we go.
Technical
do you run a small business
difficulties.
in Canada? Look to Canada's #1 employee benefits plan, Chambers Plan, to give you a competitive edge. We could use one of those right now. Chambers Plan is the simple, stable, smart choice for over 30,000 businesses countrywide. Visit chamberplan.ca to learn more. I need got you covered tech person right now, but hey, shout out to the Johnson Group. Let's burn through the rest of these because we've got awards to hand out. Let's start with the keg save of the game. What do you got, Ken?
Oh man, Schmid absolutely robbed a Jet player. Who was it?
Yes, it was
big pad save in the first period. Kick
Nick
save
Ehlers?
on the right. Oh, sorry, no, Perfetti. Backdoor pass, really
Nick
good play
Ehlers,
by
Perfetti.
Vladislav. It was Nemestikov.
Or was it
who found
Nemestikov?
Perfetti. Yeah,
Yes,
but Ehlers
there we
on the entry got the puck to Nemestikov. Nemestikov took a patient wait, went across, cross body pass, and Perfetti did a great job of redirecting it to what looked like the open cage, and Schmid just stuck out the right leg at the last second, and it was like right between the bottom of the pad and the right skate, and it was just like absolute robbery. Honorable mention, I think, like I said, Connor Hellebuck had a couple of big saves at the end of the first period to make sure it would remain scoreless before that 5-goal outburst in the second there that left the Jets with a 3-2 lead. But I thought the Schmid save was the save of the game, brought to you by our good friends at the Keg.
Good stuff. Keg, all 3 locations. Hey, you want to save some money on going to the Keg? I know I do. Everybody does. If you want that, you know what to do. Share with Kenny and Renny your save of the game. The Keg, hashtag the Keg save of the game. You do that, you'll automatically be entered to win a $50 gift certificate usable at any of the 3 fine Keg locations in the city here. That brings me to the winner.
And we finally made the reservation.
Keg.
We'll be going to the Keg ourselves in a couple weeks.
That's right. It's going to be great. Looking forward to it. The Keg save of the game winner from last time is at Lee River Guy. Now, this is interesting for me.
Indeed.
Because at Lee River Guy, for Lactabani Guy, so Lee River out in that area. My father-in-law has a place there. At Lee River Guy, I don't know if I know at Lee River Guy. Sometimes a lot of people, they retire and they move out there. I don't know if I know him. I know that at Lee River Guy has been sassing some of my takes and is pretty brazen for someone who may run into Renny out there around Lee River. So we'll see if at Lee River Guy stays incognito or outs himself. Either way, if he wants that gift certificate, he knows what he's got to do. Direct message me at SN Sean Reynolds with his full name at Lee River Guy. We'll see who this is who's taken on my takes with such hardness or harshness. And send me your email and we will send you your very own $50 gift certificate to be enjoyed at the Keg, one of the fine 3 Keg locations in the city. You are on the clock. You've got till Friday at Lee River Guy. We'll see what for at Winnipeg River Guy.
Show yourself. Yes, show yourself.
There's always been a clash between the Winnipeg River guys and the Lee River guys. I mean, the Lee River, it's like a nice little channel. Good for you. Good. It's a fine storming river, the Winnipeg River that Rennie's family's got a place on. So we'll see about this at Lee River Guy. Hey, Ken, let's move on. Let's get to the Trans-Canada Brewing Company lamplighter of the game. What do you got?
Like I said, we've talked about the Perfetti pass quite a few times already, but I'm actually going with the Kyle Connor one-timer because the spinning backhand pass from the left wing boards all the way across to the middle of the circle by Mark Scheifele is also brilliant. And again, we've been giving Perfetti a lot of love in this show, and I think that Mark Scheifele had himself another strong game. Absolutely massive hit on Andre Palat. And then later in the game, just a brilliant pass on that the goal by Kyle Connor. So I just think that Kyle Connor snipe on the one-timer is the lamplighter, and in a game where you could have easily chosen several other things. And as I mentioned, I mean, the Barron goal is a beauty also. Nemestikov, great job on the forecheck, disrupting things down low with that big hit on Kevin Ball, and then a good pass down low also. I mean, really good game overall. Lots of options, but to me, that Scheifele pass is absolutely brilliant and an absolute filthy finish by Kyle Connor on that the second of the night and 13th of the season.
It is just a gorgeous, gorgeous pass. And the one thing that I've thought about this right now is what keeps popping into my mind, Ken, is Mark Scheifele had talked when Blake Wheeler was leaving about how he was the best passer that he's ever played with. I think right now Mark Scheifele has unlocked his game. He's always been a good passer, right? To the point that there were some years on this podcast we talked about it and thought,
pass first player.
He's forcing the passes too much. It's like start shooting the puck already. Now last year he starts shooting the puck, has a 40-goal season, leads the Jets in scoring. So we know 42. He's capable of doing that. Yeah, but I take a look at what Mark Scheifele is doing right now. I think he's achieved Blake Wheeler peak levels of assists at right now. The way that he is directing people towards him, the way that he's finding Kyle Connor. Like the thing about Kyle Connor is for a lot of the goals that we've seen him score, he's a real quick slicer and dicer, like kind of hides off into the, in the weeds and then pops into a spot. But what it means is, other than that pass that he makes there, Kyle Connor is usually skating to a spot. He's not in a spot. He's skating to a spot. So what Mark Scheifele is doing quite often, especially on those behind the net plays, is he's fighting along the boards with a guy all over him, and he's trying to lose that guy. And as he's doing it, he's turning and seeing not only that Kyle Connor is open, because sometimes he's not even open, but he's seeing that he's going to be open, and he's seeing that he needs to get the puck to a spot. He's getting the puck to that spot. We can say all we want about Kyle Connor right now, and we should be. It's no small feat to be leading the NHL in goal scoring. I mean, look at this. Like, we may have a Rocket Richard Trophy winner in the city this year. Wouldn't that be something? That would be absolutely amazing. I guess we did have a little bit of the hunt for it that one year with Patrick Laine when he ended up with 46 goals and really fell off towards the
47
end. 47
for Connor too, man. 47 for Connor 2 years ago. He was with Austin at just after the midway point. That was, as Bart Kivas likes to remind me, that was one of my my whiffs in the predictions for 2020, or the new season predictions, that he would win the Rocket Richard, and he got left in the dust. He had a lot to pick
from, let's be honest. But anyway,
hey, Dubois did sign the largest he did sign the biggest contract in history eventually, but it was traded to the LA Kings.
You're right. There you go. That one will go down. Now, hold on to that for trivia purposes.
I already sent Bart a note about that one, buddy. I already sent him a note.
Good stuff. Anyways,
Laine only had 44, by the way.
Oh, sorry. Laine had 44, but if you remember, in the last 10 games
this
season, he was right neck and neck, and then he fell apart down the stretch when Ovi just kept going and got over 50. But I guess the idea of a Winnipeg Jet challenging for that trophy isn't as foreign as I would suggest it is, but the idea of Kyle Connor potentially winning that trophy, if he does this year, Ken, it's going to happen because Mark Scheifele has reached a level of setting him up of assist man, a Blake Wheeler peak years level of being an assist man that is fueling that. He's doing an absolutely great job. But you're right. You nailed it. Love that goal. Perfect lamplighter. And hey, if you want to share with us your lamplighter, you should do so. Why? If you do, you're automatically entered to win a frosty, delicious 8-pack of Lamplighter Amber Ale, brought to you by our friends at TransCanada Brewing Company, the absolute nectar of the gods. If you don't want to wait for Kenny and Renny to gift you your own 8-pack of Lamplighter Amber Ale, here's what you do. Head on down to TransCanada Brewing Company. Join them in the tap room at 11290 Kenniston, where we will be having the Kenny and Renny December Christmas / holiday / December to remember / December to dismember party on December 10th. It's going to be great. A Sunday 7:00 game, followed by a live airing of the Kenny and Renny podcast. If you want to get your tickets, we'll pop it into the chat room as we always do. Head on over there. Oh, there you go. Kenny's got it ready to go. Head on over there, buy your tickets. We'd love to see you, love to share a beer and some pizzas with you, and love to hear you boo Ken's takes live, because we know what's happening behind the computers at home. So let's just bring it out, get it out in the open where everyone can deal with it. Let's do that. Which brings me to our winner.
Let's revisit my preseason take about Kyle Connor, maybe, on one of these shows.
Well, let's each bring our receipts. Let's bring our receipts to TCB on December 10th and see whose stack of receipts is taller.
All right,
okay?
all right, I like it. I like
Winner of the Lamplighter from our last show would be Doug Henderson. Doug,
Oh,
my
Doug,
man.
well done.
You've won. So you know what to do. You got a direct message Renny at SN Sean Reynolds. Send me your full name, which I'm assuming is Doug Henderson, because it would be weird to go by a completely, totally, like if your name is Dave Sawitsky, going by Doug Henderson, that's weird. So let's just assume you're Doug Henderson. But what I do need from you, Doug, is I need your email. Send it to
Doug's
me.
here. He's here. Don't worry.
Doug's here. There's Doug. Doug, send it to me, and I will send you a voucher for your very own voucher for an 8-pack of Frosty Delicious Lamplighter Amber Ale, brought to you by our friends at TransCanada Brewing Company. Ken, I posted on Twitter the other day, someone stopped me in the walkway at the Jets game, and he had a lamplighter in his hand. He ran over. He wanted his picture taken with Renny. It was his birthday, and he said to me, it's both frosty and delicious, the nectar of the gods. And I was like, he gets it. This guy gets it.
Yes.
This is a Kenny and Renny fan right here, no doubt. Let's talk about Cole Perfetti let's talk about Alex Iafallo. We kind of touched on, I would have liked to gone deeper with Perfetti, but we got to get around here. Let's just talk about Iafallo and what he's kind of doing with this team. We talked about here, I just gave you my soliloquy about what Mark Scheifele is doing for KFC. What is Alex Iafallo doing for that line? Because yes, he's, had a bunch of points for some games there. He only has 1 point tonight, but to me, he is just constantly affecting the outcome of that line over and over again.
Yeah, I mean, another game where Iafallo is very active. 1902, 23 shifts, average of 49 seconds, 328 on the power play, 1534 at even strength, 2 shot attempts, 1 blocked shot. Does a lot of, the things that don't show up on the, box court statistics. Really sound defensive player. And I think, Sean, in some ways, there's a little bit of osmosis because Iafallo is so good defensively. Not only can he cover up some of the errors his teammates occasionally make, but I think that because he's so sound defensively, it almost encourages, and we know that Mark Scheifele and Kyle Connor are making an effort to be better. I mean, Mark's been very good, and I think Kyle, as he showed the other day, is making an effort as well. Of course, everyone can improve at defensive hockey, including Alex Iafallo, who's excellent at it. But I think he's doing a really nice job of, especially for a guy who hasn't played a lot on his offside. I mean, I think that that's something that, we just sort of say, well, Iafallo's good, he's got to be good anywhere. Well, he's playing on his off wing. It's not something that he's done a ton, at least not, I don't think, not compared to, Niederreiter or guys like that, or even Nikolai Ehlers. But he's doing a great job, gets around well, wins some board battles, and is a guy who, Sean, to your point about creating chaos, he gets to the net. And that's something that line needs, someone that is going to go to the net. They've got 2 incredibly great shooters, lethal shooters. And when you have guys that are going to the net, their second opportunities are there. So I think that he's doing a great job on that line. And, he's fit in very well. And Alex Iafallo is a guy that can play with anybody and will be effective with anybody. I don't want to get into this debate right now. I mean, I do think that once Gabriel Velarde is back to full health, there's a chance that he returns to the top line. But again, that's not a factor for 2 weeks. And right now, Iafallo has a great opportunity to show that he can stay on that line as long as he wants. So, that's up to him. But I think that it took him a while to figure out how Kyle Connor and Mark Scheifele play. And now he's starting to get into a groove with them. So naturally, they should stay together and continue to play the way that they have been. And that's something that's been very impressive to watch. I mean, what stood out for you? I mean, here's the other thing. Iafallo is a great penalty killer, Sean. He's not even in the rotation because the Jets need to kind of keep him fresh for 5-on-5 play, and because he's on that top power play unit.
Well, hey, this is a great comment from T. Konapali here about Iafallo, who says he makes his line mates defensively accountable. I don't know if I would say it's like him bending them towards that. I think the one thing that we were looking for coming into this season was finding a line mate, whether it be Alex Iafallo, whether it be Gabe Vilardi, who would be the defensive presence on that line and allow things to open up for those players. They've been that. I think so I mean, T. Konopali is saying this, and maybe that's part of it, right? Maybe Alex Iafallo is doing his thing and he's kind of showing the way. I think the one thing that a lot of people maybe didn't have on their bingo card is that Mark Scheifele and Kyle Connor would be as defensive as they are, but you never miss the defensive side of things from Alex Iafallo here. And I just think that, Kyle Connor, we talked with him. Was that this morning? We had the conversation with him, Ken. And I just asked him about, what seems to have, clicked. And he talked about Alex Iafallo, and you could see he's just like, he says like, he's so easy to play with.
Right.
But he's excited to get to know him more and learn how to play alongside him more. And actually, someone asked earlier on, and this is like, talk about good problems to have. What are you going to do with Gabe Vilardi when he comes back to the lineup? Because at this rate right now, would you mess with what's happening with that line, considering we're talking about Kyle Connor being a Rocket Richard Trophy candidate? Would you mess with that right now? Gabe Vilardi wasn't around long enough to show that he and that line could reach this level. And I know I don't want to be one of those guys who have people lose opportunities because of injury, but holy smokes, why would you ever mess with what's going on with this line right now? Iafallo is constantly, that goal happens. The first goal of the game happens because he's creating chaos in front of the net and everyone is dealing with him. And that allows Kyle Connor to come in and slice and dice and do his thing. Iafallo is great, like you said, as a penalty killer. He's great on the power play. Like, there's nothing this guy can't do. And no, he's not an offensive threat to the level that those two players are. But he just takes everything and just makes it that much better. Like, you add him on and it's just like, I'm trying to think of a good example. I can't think of something right now, but those things in life where you just add the add-on that takes everything and makes it that much better, like taking the governor off your vehicle and it goes that much faster. He's the mechanic that goes in there and pops the governor off of there. He's been absolutely phenomenal, I think. And it brings me to this question, Ken. I'm going to leave this with you and the chat room. I'd like to hear your thoughts on this. I was pondering this. But at this stage, right now, Alex Iafallo, Mark Scheifele, and Kyle Connor. Is this a top 5 line in the league right now?
Well, I mean, they're producing like one. I would say that it's hard to argue with the results. I mean, they've been very good. Let's see how it goes in the next couple of weeks. I mean, I've said this before. I think that, based on how things are going right now, I would have considered putting Vilardi back, into the lineup, maybe with Cole Perfetti and Nikolai Ehlers. But now Vladislav Nemestikov is playing even better and making things happen. So, I mean, we're going to just have to see how it goes. I mean, there's a couple weeks to go here. If you do make a change involving Vilardi, it will come down the road. So let's see how it goes. I mean, there's going to be things that happen. I mean, the only thing right now, Alex Iafallo absolutely has earned the right to stay on that line. In terms of the long-term results, Sean, I would say one of the differences in those two players, Vilardi is a little bit more of a, physical presence, I wouldn't say, but he's an imposing person at, 6'3.5", 220. He's a little bit more of a natural goal scorer. He wins a lot of board. Not that Iafallo doesn't, but Vilardi does some things in terms of the puck possession game and maybe natural finish that Iafallo doesn't do as well. But Iafallo also does some of the other things incredibly well. So I would leave things as they are right now. But there's a couple weeks for things to go in. Appleton's going nowhere. Appleton's playing very, very excellent hockey right now as well. And let's not make any mistake. Like, recency bias, don't get yourself in trouble here. Just because Vilardi only played a couple games. I mean, this is a guy the Jets were banking on being a 20-plus goal scorer. So the Jets aren't going to just put him on the fourth line and leave him there. I mean, Gabriel Vilardi is going to be a key contributor once he gets healthy. But the Jets have proven, and they have the benefit of the doubt, that they don't need to worry about forcing him in and trying to play him 20 minutes right out of the gate coming back from an injury of this magnitude. So they can ease him in, and when he's ready, they'll get him going. So we'll just let that play out. And again, some of this will depend on the injury to Rasmus Kupari as well. If he's out long term, then things get a little bit easier in terms of where the holes in the lineup might be. You want to get any quick thoughts on Logan Stanley being in the lineup here for David Gustafsson tonight, 11-7, which became 10-7?
Well, let's just sure. Let's get quickly into that. I know a lot of people here were trying to suggest that Kupari being out and them going 11-7 and David Gustafsson being out is the same as the Devils not having Nico Hischier and Jack Hughes. Come on. Give your head a shake. That is most definitely a pristine wake-up call right there. Listen, this was a night that Scott Arniel said he wanted to get more ice time for a number of players. This actually worked out in the Winnipeg Jets' favor, and you could see how it went. He wanted more ice time for Perfetti. He wanted more ice time for Nick Ehlers. He wanted more ice time for Kyle Connor. This worked out in their favor and allowed them to do that in this situation. I'm not saying that as a coach, you don't have this kind of fall into your lap and it'd be problematic. But anyone who is this is a night where especially with 2 days off after this, there's nothing the Jets are holding onto their energy for. I think this worked out splendidly for the Winnipeg Jets. I think, on a night where you want to try and get into your rhythm, I don't think anyone was complaining about their ice time. Everyone wanted more. Anyone who suggests that this was a problem for the Jets, it wasn't. It worked out in their favor tonight. It's one of the reasons they won the way that they did. Logan Stanley, I thought he came in. They had that nice pop in the back of the net. He played pretty good for a guy who really hasn't had the opportunities he's had this year. I don't know about the idea of where they're at, and they're switching things around to try and get a guy into the game like that. I guess you want to make sure that your guys are ready to go when it's time to come in. I don't mind the chaos of 11-7, so I guess I don't mind it at all. I don't know. To me, it's almost like a procedural move. I'm not overly excited about it. I don't have a ton of thoughts on it. It's just Logan Stanley got in. He showed well. I just don't think that it's a little bit of a nothing burger thing to me, although I'm sure it's big in Big Stan's world.
Sure. And, for folks who don't know, 13 shifts for 9:34. He had 42 seconds of penalty killing time. The thing that I was surprised by, Sean, I thought the one reason why I thought the move might have been made was to get the Jets penalty kill has been struggling. So one of the guys who is a big body and, at times during his career has shown the ability to clear the puck out of the zone, which is one thing the Jets have struggled with on the penalty kill. I thought we might see more of Logan Stanley in that rotation. And a couple of the penalties were to penalty killers on the back end, to both Dylan DeMello and to Brennan Dillon. So I thought we might see more than that 40 some seconds. He had a couple hits. Like I said, I agree. I mean, there was really not much to it. I don't know. I think, quite personally, Sean, I think he played more than I anticipated him playing. I didn't think he was going to be in around 10 minutes. He was still slightly under, but 9:34, pretty good considering. It cut into Nate Schmidt's minutes naturally, 13:40 for Schmidt. Also, Brennan Dillon had a few shifts, cut short early, 16:46 for the game. Neil Pionk was a benefactor, 19:28 for him. So I thought Pionk was really good again tonight, Sean. Overall, like I said, it was important for him to not have a game where, he stood out for the wrong reasons. I think he did some good things for sure. I don't know that he did enough to stay in the lineup, Sean, personally, for me. No. I think that he showed that, you can go to him if he needed him. And for some folks who are wondering, Declan Chisholm got into a couple games at home with the Manitoba Moose on the weekend here, Sunday, Monday. Certainly was some rust for him to shake off. But again, important for him to get into some game action. He can play up to, I think, somewhere in the neighborhood of 8 games during this 2-week stint. It can last up to 2 weeks. That's important for him. We'll see where that goes. And some folks that have been asking about Velarde, I'm not 100% sure if the Jets would look at a conditioning stint for him. I don't think so. It's not impossible, but I wouldn't expect it. I think that when he's ready, I think he'll be jumping into the NHL lineup when he's healthy and fully cleared to go. So, Jets and Sabres.
Yeah.
Some folks had mentioned in the chat room, if you didn't see it, tough news for the Sabres. Tage Thompson, according to Donnie Granato, is going to be out for a significant portion of time. Injured twice today, and the second one sounds like it wasn't very good. Blocked shot. So that's tough news for the Sabres. And Tage is one of the most fun guys to watch in the NHL. I mean, based on how he played last year.
Yeah. Well, good stroke of luck for the Jets. I'll just close out the Logan Stanley comments by saying, like, I thought he looked decent for a guy who hasn't played for a while, and I think he just kind of continued if we need to throw Stan, we can throw him in. But to your point, he didn't walk in and take anyone's job. It wasn't like, God, we can't keep this guy out of the lineup any further. To me, that's why it feels like a little bit of a nothing burger thing to me, because it's just like they got a guy some ice time. They wanted to get some ice time. He came in, he got some ice time. He looked capable in that ice time. It just looks like something that's going to happen to put him right back out in the box. A couple things that stood out to me before I leave here. I cannot believe I'm seeing my eyes here, but the ultimate Ken Wiebe apologist, Kenny's water bottle, says chemistry is sometimes difficult to find. Don't mess with it. When you find it, you might not get it back. I don't think Kenny's water bottle even realizes that he's calling you out for your take
it's fine.
on taking Iafallo off your line. No, he's not. He probably doesn't even realize what he's done. He's probably beside himself. He'll probably try and get a hold of you afterwards. No, I think what he's saying is, like, you don't take Iafallo off now. I probably don't think he realizes that he's like calling out your Nino take. I kind of feel bad for Kenny's water bottle, because but don't worry about it. If Kenny's water bottle is not the ultimate Kenny apologist, we've got someone taking his spot here. MBHA Ball Hockey says, or maybe Kenny wanted to get that line going by mentioning a breakup. It's not a coincidence that they have been on fire since. So you heard it here first, folks. MBHA Ball Hockey is giving Ken credit for the success of the first line after Ken advocated breaking up the first line. Hey, listen, up is down. We're fully in bizarro world. Great take, NBA Ball Hockey. This makes tons of sense. Good.
Sounds like when you would take credit for getting PLD going when he was struggling.
But listen, PLD listened to our show. I don't know if the coaches do. He for sure listened to our show. Anyways, that's it for us, ladies and gentlemen.
Hang on 1 second. This is a great job.
Yeah.
Paul Robert, could Parker Ford get a call up? I mean, it's a good question. I still think that the way that he's been playing, I think it's still more, unless the Jets are going to have him. I think the first guy into the lineup would be Gustafsson. So I don't think they would call up Parker Ford to sit in the press box, because he still needs to get game action. It's still his first full pro season. I would think it's more likely going to be a Dominic Toninato or someone like that. But, I mean, we'll see what happens in the next day or two here. I don't think there'll be a call-up before Thursday, but I would think that they'd want to get a player in here by Thursday and then go from there.
No doubt. Okay, great job, everyone. This is one of those nights where the chat room was absolutely on fire,
Indeed.
just like the Winnipeg Jets offenses. I don't know what's hotter, the Jets offense, Kyle Connor, or the Kenny and Renny chat room. It's rocking it. Either way, you know what I always say at this time of the show. If you appreciate the conversation happening in this space, please appreciate our sponsors who fight to keep the conversation going in this space. For us, that's Vittorio Rossi, Pristine Roofing with their wake-up call, Sweet Lou Furlan, whether you're buying or selling, the Johnston Group, the Kenny and Renny OGs, Cambrian Rock Solid Credit Union, the near original Kenny and Renny OGs, and of course the Keg that have their hashtag Save of the Game. Make sure you share that in the comments below in the video. And of course, Trans-Canada Brewing Company, who always enrich us with the nectar of the gods. Thanks to all of them. We really appreciate them being along for the ride. And thanks to all of you. We appreciate you being along for the ride as well. We hope you do it all over again after Friday when the Winnipeg Jets play the Buffalo Sabres. Have a great night, everybody. Talk to you later.